so hard. When I was a kid, my mother would just call some girl in the neighborhood on a landline, and she would answer because it was part of the social contract.
Hey there, is it Eansong Wangl? Forgive my poor pronunciation. My name is Shad Bradbury. I've been an animator for about 20 years. I started in 2D animation where I worked on Curious George. Then I went to games for a few years and worked on a game that never came out. Then I worked at Rhythm and Hues and Sony and Tidbit. And then finally Pixar. I left Pixar to direct a short that I've been working on for the last 4 or 5 years. I'm almost done with that, and I'm also currently helping Pixar finish up their film Lightyear. So enough about me. The work, this shot, I just took a look. It's really beautiful, but let's take a look again.
This is so hard. When I was a kid, my mother would just call some girl in the neighborhood on a landline, and she would answer because it was part of the social contract.
So much beautiful stuff in here. There's a lot of really brilliant movement in here, and I can tell you know you're an experienced animator. So a lot of the notes I'm going to give are just kind of my choices and how I might approach this. One thing I can say overall is that your lip sync definitely feels off. I don't know if it's just this take, but it feels like in general most of your lip sync is maybe 4 frames off throughout. It feels like we're missing some too, so I'm guessing it's not just the audio. It feels like we're missing hard.
When I was a kid, my mother would just call some girl in the neighborhood on a landline.
So I'm guessing it's just the lip sync. Some of the strongest parts for me are near the end. Like I'm really loving this pose.
Because it was part of the social contract.
And I really love this last little 30 frames right here. And I'll get into why in just a little bit. I also love kind of your hand play with the phone. Some of the things that you're doing is just, you know, exceptional. So a lot of kudos on my end. Nicely done. So let's jump in. So some of the big things I'd like to talk about is I feel like one of the big things that, like, when people are looking at demo reels for jobs, and one of their main complaints with people is that people often either over animate or they use too many poses while acting. And so knowing that, I always encourage my students to try to use as few poses as possible. Even if it's too many, I think it's better to err on the side of using too few poses than being lumped into that group that is using too many poses, because we often see that quite a lot. And rarely will you get a note of like, oh, well, they didn't use enough poses. But you'll almost always get the note of like, oh, you're just using too many poses for this. And so I think that actually applies to this shot. I think we could probably minimize some of the poses overall and just simplify some of the animation. So going from here, I'll just kind of start from the beginning with my thoughts. I would start out, because it actually took me, and maybe I'm just a little slow, it took me a few times watching it through to get, like, to connect everything. Oh, she's on, like, because I was just looking at the awesome animation. Oh, she's on a toilet. She connect this and this and this. So, and you've staged it really nicely with this being right in the foreground. And so one thing I think you could do to emphasize that is I think at the beginning you could have her staring at this. I think also what that would probably do is that would give you some white above the eyes. She looks walled-eyed right now. You might have to end up rotating the head a little bit so that she's not so odd looking. But I would have her, you know, basically looking here like this, and probably get some white above the eyes, because we're starting this shot right at her breaking point. Like if we imagine, like, you know, the previous 15 seconds to this, she's been like, and it's like building because no one's answering. She's hearing the ringtone, and it's like she probably started out like this, and you know, I can almost imagine her, like, her eyes like getting bigger and bigger, and we're starting the scene right as she's just like looking at what she's not going to get, which is this, you know, non-toilet paper. So I think that would help reiterate the idea, and it wouldn't change your intent at all. I do like how you're going. She's like trying to find the words. Right now it kind of hurts you because a lot of your lip sync is off. So it makes it feel like maybe you were trying to say something, but I don't think that was your intent. I think your intent was to actually be like, why is this so hard? So I think once you get your lip sync working, I think this kind of like trying to find the words will actually work. Cool. I'm just going to step through some of this animation because I think it's really fun to kind of see all the things that you're doing. It's a really nice mouth shape. I have to say, this mouth shape is very clean and nice. It also reads for the Y, so I think I don't have any notes on this part right here though.
This is so hard.
The next part that I have a note on is this right here. By the way, this is pretty cool too. I wonder if
this is so hard. This is so.
I wonder if this is a little bit. I wonder if you give yourself more of an ooh shape throughout this. Like I wonder if you push this so that it's like a shape like this, and you overall just push it like over here more, just so that we're getting more of a ooh, like more of your ooh shape.
This is so hard.
So why is this so hard, right? Like, so you push those lips out.
This is so hard.
Right here.
So.
This may be a choice. Like, I actually didn't realize what she was doing. Her action was going like this the whole time. I would hit this pose and stick it, as opposed to kind of drifting through this pose. Right now, it kind of just feels very drifty and floaty. And personally, I would, and I don't think you're getting anything by doing this personally. Like, it actually took me a few frames to do that. And all I noticed was kind of just like movement. So I wonder if you end it around 45 and you kind of hit and stick this pose a little bit harder. What that'll give you is that'll give you a chance to emphasize hard. Why is this so hard? And you can just do a little bit of like this. Why is this so hard? And we'll be able to actually see the mouth change, and you'll be able to do a slight accent with the head for hard. Because right now we're completely losing the word hard. It kind of just goes so hard, and it just goes like that. Yep, I would kind of try to stick here. You're going to be more in an ooh shape at this point. So hard, right? And then we'll see the mouth change a little bit for the hard.
Hard.
When
I was a kid, my mother would just go so hard.
What? Yeah. See. Hard is like a slight jaw compression. Hard. And if you're moving your head like this, we're not really going to see that jaw compression. So I would definitely stick there.
Hard.
I also, a small little note, and this may be me personally, this feels like an odd shape to me. So what I would do is I would end up using like a bow. You don't have to do as extreme as I'm drawing right here, but I would probably do something like that to just get a little bit stronger of a shape.
So hard. When I so hard. So hard.
I find myself wondering if you can separate the down movements of, because right now it feels like your head and hand go and they hit down at the same time, and I would personally play around with trying to separate those, and maybe the hand comes down then the head comes down, trying to find, you know, a beat separation, so, you know, maybe 7 frame separation where one comes down then the other.
Hard. When I was a kid. Hard.
I really love this right here. Ooh, look at, you've got some nice stuff there. This is really done well. Coming out of this is the only part I have an issue with. It's going into this right here. So it's getting into this pose. So getting into pose 100. Right now your animation, and this is very staccato. It's and which is great, but then you get out of it in a very staccato way as well. So you go when I was a kid, and it doesn't feel quite natural. So I would try to overlap those movements, getting into into pose 101. So most of what I'm seeing is like, if you look at this, this, and this, you take these three things, they go boom, and they hit and stop all at the same time. So I would try to overlap those movements so that they don't go whoosh, and they all stop at the same time. I think you'll find.
When I was a kid.
See, when I was a kid, and then she just goes like this, and it might be better if you go, when I was a kid, and then you overlap like a hand. Cool.
My mother.
I also.
When I was a kid.
I'm also not a huge fan of personally this hand shape. Like it feels weird that my wrist is out here, but then it goes like this and my hand goes like that. It feels like it's not committed. It feels like if you're gonna do that, you're gonna put your whole like hand on your head like this. But saying that, I really like this pose right here, 126. So what I would suggest doing is personally losing this. This gets back to simplifying and trying to minimize poses. And removing all this and basically getting yourself into a thing like this. So you can just be like, when I was a kid, and you can play the whole thing throughout there. So you're removing all of this movement right here. Pardon.
I was a kid. My mother. When I was a kid.
Cool.
When I was a kid, my mother would just. When I was a kid.
See, and then you'll be able to act more with just this. When I was a kid, and this will be a lot more stationary. So throughout this line, kind of lock this down, and you can act with this.
When I was a kid, my mother would just call some girl in the neighborhood on a land. Kid, my mother would just call some girl in the neighborhood.
But see, I like this part because you start to slow it down a bit.
Call some girl in the neighborhood.
I would be careful about having both these activate on the same frame. Try to lose one of these. Again, this is why the end works so well. I'll use this as an example. I'm going to turn off the audio right now. What's great about this is how this is isolated. It just moves, then this moves. Isolation of movement. That's something that I always look for, especially when I'm doing more push stuff. And that's what you have at the end here, and I think that's part of the reason why this is so strong. One hand just moves, it stops, the other hand goes, then it does this big move. The energy from this flows into your head there, which then moves your head. So try to find more of that kind of throughout your animation.
Girl in the neighborhood. My mother would just call some girl in the neighborhood on a landline.
And then this right here, this is where I think, again, we can simplify. This right here, on a landline from 189 to 216. Personally, I think you could either really minimize that by like 80%, or you could just lose it all together. And that way we can focus on this. Try not to feel like you always have to act every time there's a sound. Sometimes you can just do it in the face, and it's much stronger if you just rely on the facial expression versus like always doing something like this.
And she would answer because it was part of the...
It'll also, if you have those moments where you're just intense like this and you're going like this, and then when you go like that, it'll make that movement much bigger instead of like, hey, I'm doing this. And then when you go like that, right? See, like that movement diminishes by all the preceding movement.
When I was a kid, my mother...
Cool. So those are my main notes.
Hard. When I was a kid.
Let's get into your lip sync real quick.
When I was a kid.
When I was a kid.
When
I was a young warthog.
When I was a kid.
Cool.
When I was a kid.
Be careful of. You're getting you're getting Y too soon. When I
was a kid, my mother would just call some girl in the neighborhood.
Girl. Take a look at girl.
Call some girl.
You already should be at your M shape here. Some girl. I would go to. And then you should be fine by there. Brr. There's a B shape. Great facial expression.
A landline, and she would answer, and she would answer, and she would answer.
I love how you're opening your mouth open early here. You can keep it open. And she would answer it. But right now you're going, and she would answer it. So you, and she would, like, you can keep that mouth open for a while.
Because it was part of the social contract. This is so hard. When I was a kid.
Really beautiful work. Nice job. Congratulations on winning. I'll see you. Bye.